I just saw a question from Mr. Charlie Warner asking if I have any tattoos. So do I have any tattoos? Well, yes, I do. In specific, I actually have 3 different tattoos. The first tattoo I ever got was on my thigh. And let's see if I can show it to y'all properly. It was on my thigh right here. Y'all aren't getting a very good view of it right now. Let's see. How can I show you guys the tattoo on my thigh? I got it right after my 18th birthday, and it's this tattoo right there. That was the first tattoo I got right after I turned 18 in the summer of my 18th birthday. It is a tattoo of Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes waiting for the bus stop. And the reason why I got that as my first tattoo is because I am a huge fan of Calvin and Hobbes. In my opinion, Calvin and Hobbes is one of the best pieces of media ever made. And it has been, for me at least, one of the most influential pieces of media I've ever written. Or not written. I didn't write Calvin and Hobbes. I've ever read. I did not write Calvin and Hobbes. I misspoke there just for a second. But I just love what's going on with Calvin and Hobbes. Not just the art style, not just the writing direction, but also Bill Watterson's personal policy surrounding merchandising around his IP, which I love what he did with it, kind of thing. Don't get me wrong, I'm also a really big fan of Garfield, and I have loved different comic strips throughout the years, but one thing a lot of very popular comic strips deal with, in my personal opinion, is merchandising and the effects of merchandising on the comic strip's brand image. To me, at least, with Garfield, it's one of those things where the merchandise for Garfield is amazing, but there's so much Garfield merchandise that it's kind of become a thing of its own, and it's kind of cheapened the original aspects of Garfield as a comic strip to an extent. And you can say the same thing about many other comic strips over the years. You could say the same thing about, let's say, Dilbert or something like that kind of thing, or Berkeley Breathed, for example, or even to an extent Peanuts, although I think to a lesser extent, especially these days, as a lot of the Peanuts merchandise is honestly really fire. In my opinion, it's super easy to cheapen your IP, your creation with merchandise. Not because the merchandise is bad, the merchandise can be really good, but just by creating merchandise, creating dolls based around your main characters and everything like that kind of thing, you kind of take people out of the story and kind of make the story, make what's being said a little bit less impactful. Bill Watterson, the creator of Calvin and Hobbes, never did that. There is not a single piece of Calvin and Hobbes merchandise. The only Calvin and Hobbes merchandise out there is bootleg, illegal merchandise that they were not supposed to make. And I think that personal policy of Bill Watterson has had a massive impact on my personal perception of Calvin and Hobbes, and I think it's had a massive lasting impact on how Calvin and Hobbes is still thought of today. Calvin and Hobbes is not thought of as a comic strip with merchandise. It's thought of as a comic strip with something to say. And I think there's a huge difference in that. And as a fan of comics and as a personal huge fan of Calvin and Hobbes, I love what was done with the lack of merchandise, frankly put. And I think that Bill Watterson protecting his IP to the fullest degree was such an honestly really cool move that is absolutely awesome. Now, that's not something I could do personally. Like if I personally created a comic strip or something like that kind of thing, hell yeah, I'd be making shit tons of merch. I like money, baby. But I have massive respect for those who don't want to do that. And Bill Watterson is one of those individuals. And I absolutely have nothing but respect for that. And not just due to that, but also due to what Calvin and Hobbes had to say so much to so many different degrees. There's so much different layered philosophy and different life lessons in Calvin and Hobbes that you might not get when you first read it when you're like 7 years old kind of thing. Because I was reading Calvin and Hobbes when I was 7 years old, and I still read it today. And I reread the same comic strips that I've read time and time again over the years. I've probably read through my entire collection of Calvin and Hobbes over 10 times per book, honestly. They're some of my most read books ever. And it's like every time I read through the books, the comic strips sometimes have a new meaning and I didn't get the joke, or what was said has a new meaning to me because I now have a different perception than what I had before. I have learned more, gained more experience, and I now have a new perception. I think one of the best examples of that is still finding Calvin to be a relatable character, but also, to an extent, now finding his parents to be just as relatable as well, kind of thing. Like the whole when I was a kid reading Calvin and Hobbes, and I was reading some of the comic strips with Calvin's parents where they're trying to enforce different rules and stuff like that kind of thing, because Calvin kind of a shithead at times, I'll acknowledge. Not the easiest kid to handle by any means. That is for sure. And you hear like, or you're reading that Calvin's dad is like, oh yeah, no, that's a life lesson or something like that kind of thing. And as a kid, I just didn't really get that. I was like, man, I just don't really understand that kind of thing. That's just what? And then now as an adult and reading over those same comic strips, I'm like, I get it now. He's right kind of thing, but I also still understand Calvin's point. And for me, I gotta admit, Calvin and Hobbes has been one of, if not the most influential pieces of media of all time to me. I love Calvin and Hobbes. It is an amazing, timeless comic series, and I think it's another reason why I really like it is because he ended it right when he wanted to. He didn't make it go for too long. Bill Watterson, he started it, he ended it when he wanted to, and I absolutely love and appreciate that. I think having the balls to end a successful thing when you want to end it before you overdo it is such a good thing to do, and I have massive respect for those who do that, I will acknowledge. And in general, I have massive respect for Bill Watterson and his protection over his IP, what he did with just ending it when he wanted to kind of thing. And I think Calvin and Hobbes is one of, it's the greatest comic strip ever made. To me at least, it is the greatest comic strip ever made. And I absolutely love that. I will acknowledge. And Calvin and Hobbes is absolutely fantastic. And due to the fact, getting back on topic now, due to the fact that Calvin and Hobbes has been so influential to me as a person, I genuinely would not be the same person I am today without reading Calvin and Hobbes when I was a kid, and without rereading it over the years. Due to the fact that Calvin and Hobbes has been just that influential to me, I decided I wanted something that really meant a lot to me for my first tattoo. And so while a simple little tattoo of a Calvin and Hobbes comic panel might seem really simple and just kind of amusing, it does have a lot of personal meaning to me, and it is a tattoo that I love very much. I am super glad that I got it. It's something that I have no regrets about having permanently on my body, and I'm just really happy to have it as a whole. I love Calvin and Hobbes. But yeah, that's the first tattoo I ever got, and that's kind of the story behind it. I'll acknowledge. The next two tattoos I got are much more simple. I'll acknowledge. The second tattoo I got around about 2 years after the first, and it's on my shoulder right here. And I, as mentioned, am a really big fan of comic strips. I really like Calvin and Hobbes, as I've been talking about. I'm also a big fan of Peanuts and of Garfield as well, for, I'll acknowledge, different reasons. But I'm a really big fan of those two comic strips as well. And so I wanted both of those to have tattoos on me as well. And the second tattoo I got was from Peanuts. And this is the tattoo right here. I saw a funny image of Snoopy holding a Tommy gun, smoking a cigarette on like Google one time, and I was like, I want that as a tattoo. So I took it to the same tattoo artist I got the Calvin and Hobbes tattoo at, and I was like, hey, can I get this tattooed? And he was like, I got you. And got this tattooed, and I'm very happy with it. There's a little bit less meaning behind this tattoo, I'll acknowledge, a little bit less meaning. I just kind of like Peanuts, and I wanted Peanuts as a tattoo on me, and I wanted a funny image of a cartoon character holding a gun, and that's kind of the reason why I got this tattoo, but I'm very happy with it. I really like it, I will acknowledge. And the third tattoo I got, which is the last tattoo that I have on my person as of this moment in time, but I do have plans to get more at some point in the future. I don't really have any distinct plans for what I want to get next, so I'm not gonna say what those plans are because I don't have any, and I don't know when the next time I'm going to get a tattoo is. But the last tattoo I got it around about 2.5, 3 years ago now, I want to say. And it was this tattoo right here, which is a bit hard to show on camera as well. Let's see if I can get a better close-up of it by doing that. There we go. It is Garfield holding an AK-47, baby. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But, yeah. Got a tattoo of Garfield holding an AK-47. One of my friends drew that tattoo and tattooed it on me. One of my friends does tattooing, and I just hit him up and I was like, hey, do you think you can draw Garfield holding an AK-47 and tattoo that on me? And he was like, bet I got you. And like 15 minutes later, he sent over a drawing and I was like, that's perfect. Let's go with it. Let's organize it. And so I got that as a tattoo a couple days after that. And I'm very happy with it. I really like it. Big fan of Garfield is why I read Garfield all the time when I was a kid. Not so much anymore these days, but I really still like and appreciate what Garfield is as a comic strip. And it's kind of, in my opinion, like the exact opposite of what was done with Calvin and Hobbes. Like, Garfield is a comic strip that has been going on for so long that it's like lost all of its original meaning. It's not in any way, shape, or form what it originally was, to a decent degree, I'll admit. And there's so much merchandise that is just cheapened. Like the Garfield movie, for God's sake, has cheapened what the original Garfield comics were to a huge degree. But nonetheless, Garfield is just Garfield, and it's kind of just hilarious because Garfield, as a comic, has like no meaning anymore. But Garfield as a nameplate has more meaning than ever before. It is a huge IP today. There's Garfield Kart, for God's sake. Have y'all ever played Garfield Kart? I own it. I need to play. I need to do a live stream playing Garfield Kart. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. Garfield Kart, goated! But I love Garfield as well, and I wanted to get a Garfield tattoo, so that's exactly what I did. And I wanted another funny tattoo of a cartoon character holding a gun, and that's exactly what I wanted, and that's exactly what I got, and I am very happy, I will admit. But yeah, no complaints, no complaints. Those are all 3 of my tattoos. I'm not going to rank them or anything like that kind of thing, but I am very happy with all of my tattoos. They've all aged, in my opinion, quite well, and I have no regrets about getting any of them. I have put a lot of thought into what tattoos I want, and if I have anywhere near the thought that I might regret a tattoo, I don't get it. I don't get it. So all of the 3 tattoos I have are tattoos that I genuinely put like months of thought into, okay, do I want a design like this on my body permanently? And I decided for all the tattoos that I've gotten that that's exactly what I wanted, and gotta admit, I'm very happy with all 3 of my tattoos. And whenever I see a new design that I would like to get tattooed in the future, or whenever I just have an idea for a design that I'd like tattooed, it's definitely something that I do want to do. I wouldn't mind getting more tattoos in the future, that is for sure. Hope I was able to answer the question to the fullest extent. Appreciate that question. And this is a very fun topic to talk about. As you guys can tell, I am very happy with my tattoos. I am a huge fan of comic books. They were some of the most formative pieces of media to me as a child.